In November of 1994, Grand Rapids Museum became the world-class Van Andel Museum when it moved into its new building at Pearl Street in the Grand River. No wonder this museum has been such a spectacular success, considering it has been in the planning stages since 1978. Today we'll be looking at the perspectives of those who visit the museum, as well as taking a tour of the highlights one would typically see. Upon arriving at the museum, Pat and I found the receptionist, John and Lori, to be very helpful and informative. Lori enjoys her job at Van Andel Museum, as well as the museum itself.
I really like it a lot. I love the building. I love the facilities that we have. The location, I think, is the best part.
The first section of the museum we were able to experience was Grand Rapids in the 1890s. When entering this section, we were greeted by Lois Mosley. Lois, a devoted museum volunteer since January 1976, politely led us through a tour of the Voigt Herpelsheimer's dry goods store.
Right now, you're in the Voigt Herpelsheimer's dry goods store. They were two families that had two different kinds of businesses. They had dry goods and they had flour mills. And up until about 1910, they ran them jointly. At 1910, Voigt took the mills and Herpelsheimer's took the department store. It's a dry goods store. What you see in here are the kinds of things that anybody would come to town and they would want to have. They would want to have to dress up the clothes or the outfits that they had, remembering that most people didn't buy ready-made clothes. They would come here to the dry goods counter and they would look at all the materials and all the beads and threads, and they would get what they needed, and either the woman sewed well herself or she might have a seamstress that would come twice a year to make a couple of outfits for everybody in the family. And you would hope that the outfit that she made for you in the spring would last until she came back in the fall and made another one. So don't grow too much if you live in the 1890s.
Lois was also kind enough to show us through Rudell's drugstore.
What exactly are we looking at here, Lois?
This is what we call Rudell's drugstore, and it comes in several parts. What you see over here, part of the pharmacy, came from the Rudell family, and it came from the Straits up from Sault Ste. Marie. When they gave it to the museum, staff people went up and inventoried everything that was in there, even the leeches in the basement, and was brought down. And probably in our collection we have 3 times as much drugstore, but this is what we had space to display. Over here, the soda fountain has come from Comstock Park, and it was Nick Fink's. It was in his hotel and soda fountain where this came from. And when his business closed there, he gave it to the museum. And it had previously been in the former museum. It was in DeGraff's drugstore. It's a natural that the soda fountain and the drugstore should be together, because a lot of times the druggist would need to have water to mix some of the medicines.
So I understand you have a pretty unique story about Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola was originally for headaches and stomach aches, and it was a syrup that was mixed with water. One day, by mistake, they put in fizzy water, and the person that got that mixture said it tasted much better, and he felt more refreshed, and that's how the Coca-Cola business began.
On our tour, my crew and I would learn many things about Grand Rapids in the 1890s. For example, just in case customers back then were unable to read, stores in the city hung signs in front of their establishments representing their business. The gun store sports a gun, the drugstore stool and pestle, and the clothing store had mannequins out front. After visiting Grand Rapids in the 1890s, my crew and I moved upstairs to the Furniture City. Furniture City has furniture from as early as the 1600s to the present. This exhibit takes a look from when the furniture market in Grand Rapids began through its reshaping of the city until the present day. One of the museum's many contributors of pieces was Laura Mae Ripley. Here on display are some of her 17th, 18th, and 19th century lighting devices which were donated in 1991. Once we finished in the Furniture City section, my crew and I moved on to the Habitat to once again meet with Lois. Here she begins our tour with a cross-section of an ecosystem.
Looking at here, why do they not just show birds and turtles? Why do they show the whole system here?
There was a progression of developing exhibits, and first we wanted to just collect specimens. And the next period, we wanted to show their habitat. When we're looking at this piece, we're showing the whole ecosystem. So we see how reptiles, birds, mammals all relate to one another. So you see how it's system or on smaller animals or smaller birds for their food supply.
Why exactly did they do it, though?
Why did they do it? Well, because this shows our interrelationship to all the plants and animals, and people are a very important part because of the things that there are many things that we do that other mammals can do, but we do them better, and we can do them with more frequency. And so if humans decide to do something that is very destructive to an ecosystem, we can really destroy it very, very quickly. Whether it is a sand dune that we choose to either mine or build houses on, or if it's a wetland that we decide to fill in. Once we've made those decisions, we can't go back and recreate it.
So would you say we could change nature, but we could not change how nature works itself?
That's right. We don't change how nature works. There's a plan, there's just a plan that always works. But we can stick our finger and mess up the system.
Here, Lois explains a portion of Kent Scientific Museum which has been moved into Van Andel Museum.
Tell me, why do they have bones here and then they have an armored suit here? Why don't they go together?
Well, back when Kent Scientific Museum was established, or the Lyceum, people just collected stuff, and they collected it when they went on their travels, whether it was to Europe or Africa, big game hunters or whatever, and they brought it back, and it was all unrelated. And what you really wanted were specimens. You wanted specimens of this and specimens of that. You can look at that one piece over there that has got all kinds of animals that are unrelated, even coming from different countries. People have described it as the peaceable kingdom, but they don't go together. It's not like the ecosystems later on that you will see go.
So is this like a cross-section of Kent Scientific Museum put into Van Andel Museum?
Yes, this is how, when the museum was first started, this is what it would have looked like. When it was housed in a relatively small residential home, this is what would have been in there.
As we moved on to recreations of habitats, we encountered many excited children. One, Kim Malaran, was from Spring Lake Elementary.
Do you like Van Andel Museum?
Yeah.
What exactly do you like about Van Andel Museum?
It's entertaining. There's a lot of thrills in it. There's real dinosaur bones and stuff.
Did you have any favorite here?
The elephant bones the elephant bones. And
Did you get a chance to ride the carousel? Thank you, professional. Did you get a chance to ride the carousel?
yes.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you doing the interview with me.
As Lois showed us, habitats in Van Andel Museum can be very interesting.
Here I am with an example of the back dunes. Lois, can you tell me about the back dunes?
The back dunes is a very special feature of the Great Lakes. There aren't a lot of them. They are not all over the Great Lakes, but in Michigan we have a large portion of dune is back dune. It extends, possibly a quarter mile, only up to a quarter mile from the lake. There are three kinds of choices you can make what you're going to do with the back dunes. You can mine it and have the sand. You can build houses on it, or you can leave it as a recreation spot or a park. But usually, after you've mined it, you don't have a second chance. When you've put houses there, you don't have another choice. And a lot of the choices that we have made in Michigan is to keep the lake shore and the dunes as public property and as parks. Go ahead.
What kind of animals are we looking at here?
Well, you've got mammals like squirrels and deer and foxes. You have reptiles like snakes and turtles. And you have all kinds of birds. What is interesting and also hard is to find these animals because they're all camouflaged.
What can you tell me about these special holes down here? I noticed children seem to notice them, but the adults seem to pass them over. This
exhibit was developed for people that are two and as well as gray hairs. So there are different things at different eye levels. And as you look and follow the footprints of the raccoon, you can see the raccoon underneath. You can see a bunch of baby bunnies here, and at the far end there are some moles. All good things to look at. If you miss it the first time you come, you can see it the second time.
Since Van Andel Museum has been so successful, we asked Lois if they plan to add on.
There are provisions for building on, but as you go around the museum, you will notice that there are a lot of areas where the museum can be enhanced. When they moved into this museum in November of '94, there was still a lot of space, and that was very intentional, so that there's places to go in the future, and exhibits that there are some exhibits now that aren't open. The funeral parlor, they just opened the curtains to, but there is still the barrel company and the general store, and I know that I'm forgetting some others that aren't done. When you get up to the third floor, there are two habitats that are done: the back dunes and the marsh. And soon there will be the woodlands and the farmland, and that will be done, followed by the cityscape. So those are 2-3 years down the road. Now, Ashtabak, which is about Native Americans, they hope to open that in June, so you'll need to come back. You can't see all there is in one trip.
Among the other exhibits at Van Andel Museum are a full-scale skeleton of a whale, a carousel, the planetarium, a steam engine, and a section of the Berlin Wall. There is also a gift shop for souvenirs, and if you're hungry, TE Merches is open for lunch. There are many fun and interesting things to do in West Michigan, and certainly topping that list is Van Andel Museum. It's no wonder hundreds of people visit each day. There are so many amazing sights that my crew and I found we need an extra day to film them for this segment. You just cannot see everything in one day.